Where's Fielder?
He's gone to the dogs.
What's up?
Hey, is this Fred Moran?
I hear you've been looking for me. My phone went bad a week ago. They didn't have none in stock. They said they won't have them until Friday. That's this coming tomorrow. So I haven't had that number in use for about 8 days.
Well, I figured you were either in jail or you were probably out there deer hunting somewhere.
Usually in jail. No, then, I went to Indiana deer hunting. I go every year. Well, for the last 8, I used to hunt Kentucky. I've hunted everywhere. Tennessee. I probably deer hunted in at least 25 states, but all over the West. But anyhow, we went out to Indiana. A guy out there makes dog boxes, and I probably bought and sold 100 for him. And he's no longer in the business, but I called him, and he's no hunter. He occasionally hunts, but he told me, come on out. He used to lease the property, and I'd see so darn many deer when I'd go out pick up 3 or 4 dog boxes. I says, Tony, what's the chance of deer hunting here? He says, I had a lease for the last 8 years. He says, and I don't know what happened. The guys didn't renew their lease this year. But if you want to come out, you come on out. So I took my kid every year with me, just me and him. This year we took the grandson. He's 7 years old. And it's the first time ever that we struck out. The weather was nasty out there. Snow, sleet, rain. And I only seen 10 deer the first day. My kid seen the same amount. But he gave the gun to the little one who's 7. And he shot a deer, a buck. Knocked it down. It stopped bleeding after a while. We're following the best we could, but it's getting dark and it's starting to rain. We figured we'd come back in the morning and find him, and we never did. My kid shot a coyote chasing a deer, and that's all we got. I saw a buck Sunday morning. We only hunted till 9:30 and came on home. I saw a buck Sunday morning, but he was too fast for me. By the time I got out of the truck and that, he was long gone. So he'll be there for next year. And there's plenty of deer there where we hunt. They killed the state record within a quarter of a mile where we hunt a couple years ago. My kid killed a 12-point that year out there, and I said, that's probably a pup off that state record. It was a good deer, but like I say, I enjoyed deer hunting, especially different places. I get as big kick out of that as a good coon dog.
Well, so, I figured that you were out there chasing Bambi around the woods or whatever, because I tried to check in.
Only thing is we didn't catch Bambi this year. He got away from us. But our season comes in not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. I'll get one there, I'm sure. But I like hunting out in Indiana. It's nice. Everybody thinks it's flat. Not where we go. It's just hills like here, and that pretty big hill. I could look in the top field that I hunt and see Kentucky from where I'm at. All I gotta do is swim across the river, and I'd be in Kentucky.
Well, that's deer hunting is something that the bug never really bit me. I've done a little. And I like it. I like that back strap, nubbing more. I'm recording, Fred. I haven't talked to you in so long. I figured you'd have a lot of stories for me. So I've got the recorder going, and but I've been trying to get up with you there, and so I got a network. I contacted Patty, and
that's what I heard. She called me. I didn't even tell her my other phone wasn't working, and until you called, and then I told her. I said it ain't worked in 7-8 days. I said, but I'll have a new one tomorrow. The guy tried to sell me a smartphone. I said, I ain't smart enough to use a
Well,
smartphone.
I tell you what,
No,
she and I had that conversation because I want to get her on a podcast with you sometime. I think those stories, maybe at least we get a different view on some of these stories you've been telling us. But
she lies a lot. She lies.
well, and she told me you both have flip phones. So you're kind of like my buddy Nubbin down
Yep,
there in
yep.
Alabama. He finally got a smartphone, but we'll figure it out somehow. When you record these things, the editor, producer wants them each voice to be on a separate channel. And I can do a conference call where you and her would be on the same line coming in, but that's not the way they want it. They want it on a individual channel.
Next you're going to be asking us to
Well,
sing
that'll
together.
work too. Do you guys?
No, I got it.
Well, you.
I called her this morning. I said, did you go hunting last night or was it too cold for you? She says, I didn't go out. She said, I was ready to go. And a coon hunter called me. They called me from the woods and they talked so long. I just figured I'd stay home. So she didn't go last night. We got a big coon contest coming up Saturday or Friday, tomorrow night, Friday.
You're not going to put lead weights in it and all like they did those walleyes.
No, that ain't. I tell my kid about that. He's down your way fishing right now at Lake Hartwell, South Carolina.
Him.
If he progresses down there, this ain't the big one, but I guess you got to win something there, and he is going to win money if he gets in a winner's circle. And then he gets to fish the big one at Lake Hartwell, I think, in December. Yeah. I didn't call him, and he ain't called home, so I don't know how he's doing. I guess he'll probably come home Sunday, I imagine. But he's as nuts about that fishing as I am the coon
Is he
dog.
fishing for striped bass down there, stripers, or is he fishing for largemouth?
No. Yeah. Probably largemouth and smallmouth, my guess, anyhow. He goes in tournaments all over. My grandson is got the bug just like him, and he works for the gas well company. He makes big money. There's no question about that. And they put on a fishing tournament every year in March down in Texas. And he went there they pay the top 20 people. First place gets 20,000. But you're not allowed to keep that 20,000. You donate 17,000 to some charity that they have. But you get to keep 3,000. First year, all he won was a rod. He got in the top 50. They pay up to 50 places. He got a rod and reel, stuff like that. Second year, he didn't win nothing. The third year, he won everything.
Good for him.
And some of them Southern boys hollered up, "Damn Yankee beat us again." My grandson hollered down. He said, "It ain't the first time the Yankees beat you."
Start the Civil War all over again.
He's a big boy, though, 6'4". They ain't gonna
I got you. Well, hey, you were talking about him making big money. You know, when I worked at the registries, I made big money too. They paid me once a week, and those dollar bills were 12 inches long or better. You know, I mean, that wasn't that funny, was it? Okay. Yeah. We'll refrain from the bad jokes. Well, that's good. Well, let's talk about some coon hunting.
Well, I've had a little bad luck here lately. Me and Patty was hunting one night about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, and my dog come up limping in the woods. I had a 2-year-old, and he's a pretty nice dog. I liked him and had big hopes for him, and he's like Fred Moran, loud mouth, and he was a tree dog. And I had big hopes for him. But anyhow, he didn't suit me 100%, but he was pretty darn good. I had a couple people wanting to buy him. And in fact, Kerry Rooks even sent me a check for him and figured that I'd change my mind or something. I sent his check back. But anyhow, the dog started limping in the woods. And where we treat at, she only had one dog. She brought one of her blue dogs, and I had this red dog. I just called him Rustdale Red, named after a town I get my mail out of. But anyhow, he wasn't acting right, and he was limping a little bit. I thought, what the heck could have happened to him? And I looked them all over. There was a tree falling down with a bunch of jagged branches out of it right next to the tree we treed on. And I felt that he got hurt on that tree somehow, but I couldn't find a scratch on him or any marks or blood anywhere. So I thought, you'll be okay. Took him home. I let him go for about 2 days, and he's still limping. I called the vet, took him up there. They couldn't find a thing wrong with him. The woman doctor up there, she says the muscle on the one side, the right side, is a little shriveled up compared to the muscle on the other side. Well, when it first happened, the first 2 days, well, Dr. Moran thought he knew everything. I started giving him doxycycline. I thought he's got Lyme disease and he's getting how they get limpy in the legs and that. And I thought I'll just doctor that for a while, see if it makes any difference. Well, when it didn't make no difference in about 4 days, I decided to take him to a vet. I told her what I did. She said, well, that ain't going to hurt him. But she checked him for Lyme disease. I don't know why she checked him for heartworms, because that don't make him limp. But she checked him for that too while she drew blood and that. She couldn't find a thing wrong with it. She says, here, I says, another thing I put on him, I said, it's always worked for me in the past, is DMSO. I says, that makes a lame horse run and makes a dog better and everything else. She said, that won't hurt. She said, if you got more, put some more on. So I did. Well, I took the dog. After about 3 more days, he started walking okay. I took him hunting. That was stupid. The next day, he's limping again. I thought, well, the next time you start walking on all fours, I'll let you have a good rest. Well, I let it go for about 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And he was walking fairly good. I took him hunting. He'd favor that leg every once in a while, but most of the time he was doing pretty good. And then here, he went off his feed for a day or two, wasn't eating. I thought, he always had a good appetite. I thought that'll improve. Well, it didn't, but he was eating a lot better and most of the time finishing his pan. And here, a friend of mine, I told him, catch me a box trap coon. I want to fool it. I got a 5-month-old puppy. I said, I want to get a store to bring me a coon over. He brought a coon over one day, and I said, I'm going to take the 2-year-old. I said, because that ain't going to be much aggravation. I want something to bark at that coon so the pup gets started in that. So I took him out. We treed the coon, knocked it out for the pup. Pup didn't do that much. He is now, but at that time he didn't do that much. The old dog just didn't act right. Well, I call him old, but he's only 2. I said, something's wrong with that dog, Luke. I says, he didn't eat good yesterday, and I fed him last night, and it's still in a pan. I said, that bothers me when a dog don't eat. And so I thought, well, it's another trip to the vet. I'll take him tomorrow. I'll call her and tell him. Next day, I go up at 7 in the morning and feed him. He's laying there dead. I don't know what that dog died from. He was in perfect shape other than favoring that leg once in a while. And so your guess is as good as mine. I thought about getting an autopsy, I figured all that is money down the toilet. It ain't going to cure me on the next dog. I might know what it is, but I really
Mm.
don't know. And I worked, when I was in high school, I worked for a vet for 2 years. I learned a lot from him, but I ain't no vet myself. And I figured this woman, oh, and I took him back up there to that vet again a second time. And I told her, I says, hey, this dog's still up. And she couldn't find a thing. She said, just give him some rest. And a bird dog man told me this. He said, do you let your dog jump off the tailgate? I said, yep. He says, catch it, grab him out of the box and let him down yourself. He says, you'll be surprised how many people don't know it, that a dog will jump off the tailgate and hurt itself. And you might not see it right away, but it'll show up occasionally. And you know what? When I got that dog out of the dog box one day after this guy told me, he looked at the ground like he was a little afraid to jump onto the ground. So I picked him up since that. I thought he knows something that I don't know, whether I'm guessing or what, because of what the bird dog man told me, but I start picking him up and letting him down by hand. I really wish I knew what happened, but
Well,
I don't. And the
mm.
dog's gone. So I start looking for a dog, and it ain't like it used to be. I had contacts all over. I'm not bragging, but maybe I am. I've sold dogs in every state there is but Hawaii. I sold them in Germany, and I sold three in Alaska, but Hawaii is the only state I never sold a dog in. And the guy I sold, one of the guys I sold to in Alaska, I said, what are you going to use this dog for? I sold him a puppy. I was just curious. He says, coon hunting. He said, we got a lot of coon on the island. So that surprised me. I didn't
Well,
know
I
that.
sure didn't
But
either, Fred, but I want to interject something here just a second. You know,
sure.
in my experience over the years, when dogs would go off their feed, I found that usually it was kidney problems. Did they check his kidneys real well?
No, I didn't know. Not, I stayed there and she didn't tell me anything about kidneys. She gave me a slip of what she did do. And the only thing I've seen on there, other than taking an x ray, she checked it for
Mm-hmm.
Lyme disease and
I
checked it
got you.
for heart
Well, and I'm
disease.
going to echo what you said earlier about being a vet, you know, and Dr. Moran. I've been Dr. Fielder down through the years too. And but,
Right.
anytime there was something that seemed to be pretty serious, I always went into a vet. Although, when I was in the military, we had a deal. It was right at the close of the Vietnam War, and they were telling all of us guys overseas that, hey, if you want to, we're going to do this project transition. And we've got more troops over here than we need. And if you are going to go in a particular career field and want to get some on the job training, we'll let you do that the last 6 months of your tour. And so guys would say, well, I'm going to be a mechanic, and they'd send them down to the motor pool. And somebody would say, well, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go and try to, work in the medical field, and they'd send them to the hospital. I told them I wanted to be a vet. I was going to go to vet school when I got out. So they let me go and work in the
Yeah.
vet clinic for 6 months, my last 6 months of duty there. And I learned a lot. They let me, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You pick up
Yeah.
different things that you never
Right,
knew
but I
before.
certainly, diagnosis is really the hardest part. I think in being a vet is to try to figure out, because the dog can't tell you where it hurts. He might act like,
I
and
had
you pick up on the way he's walking, or the way, where you palpate him or feel his stomach or whatever, and you can tell that he's tender there or whatever. But otherwise, they can't say, Doc, it hurts when I do this.
Well, I've used through the course of years, I've probably used 5 or 6 different vets. The one I worked for 2 years, he was good, but his buddy come up to visit him all the time, and he lived even closer to me. And I started going to him. I thought he was a much better vet, and he took care of me financially in every way. He was a good guy. I got a kick out of him. But anyhow, I had a dog, one of the best dogs I ever owned, my Hickory dog. And anyhow, he started getting sick on me, various things. So I took him. At the time, Johnny Chilser, the Walker guy, worked for me for about 6, 7 years. I said, I'm going to give you a day off tomorrow. I want you to take my dog to Ohio State University. I already made arrangements. See what they find out on the dog. I sent him there. He brought a sheet back and everything and a big bill. Well, he paid the bill out there. And then they didn't do me a bit of good as far as I was concerned. So I heard of a clinic in Ohio called Crago Clinic near Youngstown. Every coon hunters told me they perform miracles. Sent them over to Crago Clinic. They couldn't do me any good. The state dog woman at that time, she's dead now. She said, why don't you see my boyfriend? He owned Pittsburgh Animal Hospital. And she told me his name, which was Jack Knuckle. He was a hunter, but he never had coon dogs or anything. And I says, Adrian, all he's going to do is waste my time. I says, nobody seems to know what's wrong with this dog. She says, try him. She says, I'll call him up for you. So she called him up, and I met the guy. He was quite a character and a half. We became good buddies. And I'll tell you what, the guy was a genius.
Birds of the feather flock together, you know, Fred. Birds of the feather flock together, they say.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyhow, he could look at a dog in 5 minutes and tell you what's wrong with it, and 99 times out of 100, he was right. He told me things about my dog. First of all, at that time, I lived in Duquesne. That's in a city. And I had a kennel right in the city. The council never give me no trouble about it or anything else. But if the dogs didn't eat all their feed, pigeons would come and then start putting their droppings in the feed pans and that. And the dogs, I guess, licked them and that. My dog got what was called histoplasmosis. It's a fungus from pigeon droppings. Right. And that's what my dog had. That was one of the things. And he's the first one to discover it, and he proved to me that he was right. And we just became good friends. He bought a coon dog off me. He wanted to go coon hunting some night, and I went up there and took him out. And it was summertime. He says, I want to kill them all on my place. He said, they get all my chickens. He killed 5 that night. I said, you can't do that. I said, wait till winter time comes. I'll come back. He said, I got to have a dog. So I got him a dog. And this guy was such a character. This girlfriend that he had that was a state dog woman. She'd come check my kennel, my paperwork and all that. And she brought him a calf for Christmas time. And he had everything up there. He had 3 wild coyotes that he tamed. He got them as pups. And they'd follow him like Lassie everywhere he went. They'd hide in the bushes all day. And when he came home and got out of his truck, they'd run up to him just like they were Lassie. But anyhow, getting back, he's talking to me on the phone one day. Now, this is the type of guy he is. He says, hey, wait, I'll call you back. The damn cow just walked in the kitchen.
Must be time to milk.
That's the way you had to meet this guy to believe it. I mean, he was a character. And did you ever see the movie Rain Man?
Yeah.
His brother was sort of like that guy in Rain Man. The guy, if you called his house and say at 3 o'clock, his name was Kevin. Jack, you had a call at 3:07 p.m. this afternoon. Moran called you. He'd have it down to the second what time you would call him and everything.
Well, he doesn't hear
And
from
he, like I
dignitaries that
say,
often, probably, and he just wanted.
well, here's the best one. Did you ever hear that song, Hello Teddy Bear? Or something like that. It was about a
Oh
truck
yeah,
driver
about the little
and
boy.
a
Yeah, that talked to the
yeah.
truckers.
Well, he had a CB. He had a CB, and Jack came home from work one day, and there's two 18-wheelers in his driveway. He give them truckers such a story. Oh man, he ripped that CB out of the wall and got up on a roof toward the aerial down. He said, "There will be no more truckers here." They were characters. I'll tell you what. Tricks they played on each other. He was quite a guy, but he died at an early age. I fixed him up. He was a coon hunter's vet. I bet you I had 20 coon hunters going to him. They all knew him, and he was a coon hunter's friend. You always got a discount if you were a
Well,
coon hunter.
that reminds me of
So,
Dr. Asa Kelly in Michigan. Did you know
uh-huh.
Doc Kelly?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I don't think I knew the Doc
Yeah, there
Shipperman
you
in
go.
Ohio.
Well, Doc Kelly and his wife
And
Marlene were coon hunters. They kept plot dogs. They lived there near,
uh-huh.
not far out of Jackson, on Rolling Highway. I can't remember now the name of the town, but he was very very active coon hunter at one time, and entered the night hunts and the shows. And he was a director in the Plot Association when I was involved, and just an all around great guy. But he seemed to have a gift to diagnose dogs. And coon hunters,
Well,
yeah,
Knuckle was the same way.
yeah.
Knuckle was the
Coon hunters
same
all
way.
over the country would bring their dogs in there to Doc,
This guy was this guy was such a character. Him and I went to a night hunt one time. I'll never forget this. It was in Illinois. He says, "Who's going to drive?" I said, "I don't care." I said, "I prefer you drive." I said, "We use my truck." He says, "Let's fly." I says, "I don't care. We'll get a plane ticket. We'll fly." We flew out there and we ran to Cadillac Eldorado out there.
Big time
And
in it, huh?
when we got there,
That sounds like something
yeah,
Lubert would
well,
do. Fred Lubert. That
who?
sounds like something he'd do.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And when we got out there, I had a red female. She was pretty good, nothing spectacular. I tied her to the front bumper on the ground, and she jumped up on the hood of that Cadillac, and she stood there just like she was an ornament on the hood. But I seen the scratches all over that damn hood. I thought, oh man, we're going to be paying for that. And if you didn't watch her, I finally tied her to a tree. She was all over that Cadillac. I bet when they got that thing, they didn't say a word to us when we turned it back in, but I'll bet you they said, "Where'd all these scratches come from on that car?" But
Yeah.
we lived a luxury life out there at that time. That
Well,
was
I
quite a
imagine
deal.
several rental
And
car companies over the years that that coon hunters have rented vehicles, and I've been guilty
oh yeah,
myself, over the years, and bring them back. They were kind of pretty muddy, and
the only thing is, this Cadillac was pretty
yeah.
new. It was only, I'd say, a year old. It was a shame
Yeah.
to mess it up like it. But all the stories I could tell you about him, he
Well,
was something. He told me when he went to vet school, him and two other wannabe vets got a dead horse somewhere that they were going to work on the next day and put it in their boss's bed at the college where they were going. They carried that horse and put it in
that's
his bed.
strange
I
to the
said, I
Godfather
said, what?
there, the horse head.
Yeah, yeah, they did the same thing. That's probably where he got it from. So I don't know.
Well, was
But
there a
he
particular
was
dog that he treated for you that he dog?
the
Yeah,
hickory
okay,
dog.
yeah,
He had the
yeah, that's right, that's
histoplasmosis.
right.
Then he then he had prostate trouble. And when he got 9 years old, he would he lost his voice due to that histoplasmosis. He'd open his mouth to bark and nothing would come out. I give him to Jack when he was 9, 10 years old. He was still able to breed, but mostly he did it artificially. And I bred a couple more females to him, and that was it. But he lived till he was 11. But after he was 9, he was done for. So, but he died. Well, I did that on probably all the better dogs. I had Magic. I give to Dale Inglefield when he was old. I said, let him run loose on your farm, and he'll have a good time. I said, and Jack Knuckle, like I say, he got Hickory, and I think Jack, I give him another dog too when it got old, but they kept him till they died. And Tommy Gorham had one of my dogs and kept it till it died.
Well, listen,
So,
I want to
and
pick your brain a little bit. You've been around these dogs for a long time. Do you train many pups, or do you prefer to get an older dog? Well, a started dog, or
when I was younger, when I was younger, I bred a good many females. To me, the female's more important than the male by far. I've always believed that, and I'll continue to believe that to someone. Once in a while, you get a dominant male that does produce, even if it's bred to a chicken, it'll still produce a tree dog. And I've seen two of them. And there's a boy who used to hunt with me. He's dead now, Donnie Hancher. He had a Walker female. She had tree and easy coon. She wasn't nothing much. But when he bred her to a certain dog, them pups come out like gangbusters. I mean, they were good. They weren't mediocre like I expected them to be or anything. But it was a dominant male, I feel. It certainly wasn't her. And uh, I just hunted with your hero, Randy Smith, one of his pups. He sold a pup to a good friend of mine. He's going to be a state trooper. He lives 200 miles from me. His name's Cody Fisher. And I kept hearing from Bill Lash, another coon hunter that I've sold dogs to for 50 years. Bill started coming down here when he was a kid. And he said, you got to see Cody's dog. It's 4.5 months old in the tree's coon. I said, now I've had three do that. Two at 4.5, one at 5. I said, that don't come very often. He said, Fred, I'm telling you, his pup's good. He said, he's going to be big, though. I know you don't like them big ones. And so they brought him down. He came down twice. And they lived 200 miles from me. That pup, first time, didn't do nothing great. Either did mine, no, far as I was concerned. The red dog I took. We made, I think we only made one tree and we couldn't find it. Leaves were on then at
mm-hmm.
that time. And I think we put one in the hole and we quit because they had a couple 100-mile drive back home. But the second time they come down, it was a lot different. And the first time he come, I said, Cody, you hunting that dog with anything? He says, nope, just himself and Bill's dog. I said, well, he's used to Bill's dog. He ain't used to my dog. I said, you got to get him out with some other dogs and hunt him with some other dogs so he starts working better with them. I says, he seems like he's a little leery of that. Well, I never did ask him if he started hunting with more dogs or other dogs. But the second time I seen a big improvement on a dog. He was 8 months old when he come down the second time. He split treed on one coon from my dog. I think we treed, I believe at least two coon, and we put one in the hole. And I think we treed one coon that we saw, one we couldn't find, and we put one in the hole. But I've seen a big improvement on the dog. He's a heck of a nice dog. If he was a red dog, I'd get serious with him. But he's the wrong color. I don't think he's going to grow any bigger than what he is now. I'd say he's a 70-pound dog right now. He's mostly black and white. If he got brown in him, it's very little. And he's a good looking dog, though. He'd
Yeah.
win a bench
Do you
show, that's
happen
for
to know
sure.
what he's out of, what his breeding is?
I'd know if you told me the dog's dead now. He was a seaman. I'd know the dog's name if I heard it because they told me. It's something that Randy had 7 or 8 years ago. And it's supposed to be a heck of a dog. Like I say, if you said
Yeah,
the
well,
name, I'd
years
know.
ago, Randy and Tom String had a stud dog named Cowboy. But was it out of the bone collector dog? Because Randy bred several females to bone collector semen.
I don't.
Well, we'll ask Randy about it. He'll know. Well, listen, along that line, do you have a standard or just a personal view of how long you'll give a pup to make it before you decide this one's got to go down the road?
If it ain't treating its own coon by 7 months old, I start looking elsewhere. I feel they should show a lot of promise and now don't get me wrong. A lot of guys don't hunt like I do. I'm in the woods every night, so there's no excuse here. They've been given a chance, but I got rid of several that made good dogs for other people. I was too fast on judging them. And like I say, I look for different things. They got to go hunting. I can't stand one I got to walk. And tree dog is the next thing because if they go hunting, sooner or later they're going to run into a coon, even if they're by themselves.
Yeah.
And but if you got to walk it all over the woods, that ain't for
okay.
me.
Well, let me ask you this: just take that a little bit further because it's kind of getting down close to the bone where I wanted to go with this. Have you seen them that were fairly poor hunters earlier on that later developed into good hunters?
Yep. Got rid of 2 of them that I could name that I give up on because there was no hunt in them. Yet their parents were good hunters. And I give up on I give the one away. Scott Perky got one, a red female called Pepsi. She was listed, I think she's still listed in the top reproducers in a red bone female. She was out of my dog called Downtown Brown. He was a heck of a dog. I liked him. And he got to die here. There's only 7 dogs that ever had the privilege of dying here. And
I bet they are eternally grateful to you for that.
They'll be treated the best if they do me the best. But like I say, Downtown Brown dog was a good dog. And like I say, I had a female named Pepsi. Now, don't get me wrong. Scott Perky's dad stopped me one day. They're farmers. He said, "Why don't you get my kid a puppy or something? He wants a coon hunt so bad he can't afford nothing." Well, they can buy me and sell me, but that's the way the old man put it. And anyhow, they says, "Get my kid a puppy." I says, "Tell him I'll be up Friday night and I might bring him a dog." Well, I had a dog. I know I didn't call her Pepsi. I would never use that name, but he named her Pepsi. I went up there that night, and I think she was about 8 months old. We took her hunting. The first track, she split treed from my other 2 dogs. I took 2 older dogs, and I was sick. I thought, man, the way she's treeing, and she got the tree by herself. And I already promised her to the kid, I can't change. He was only about 15 at the time. I said, I sure as hell can't take it off of him. Coon hunters find that out there. badmouthed me for 40 years. So I just give him the puppy, and he made her a night champion. He had a couple wins toward Grand, but he got her killed by a car on a back road near his house one day. And she was a good dog. And like I say, she's in that performance deal where they list you if
Top
your dog
reproducers
had a
and
percentage
so
of.
forth.
Yeah,
Well, you're talking
right.
about the performance
So,
program, right? That where they pay back
yeah,
according to your
right.
wins. Yeah. Well, listen. The reason I'm
Yeah.
asking you that, Fred, is my partner down in Virginia, Keston Jesse. He's been on the podcast, and we'll be on some more. But we've got a partnership on a Walker female, and she's a year old now. And she's treeing. She's a good tree dog. She hates a coon, all that stuff. But she's lazy when it comes to hunting. And sometimes, she takes it in fits and starts. Sometimes she'll be 350 out there, and moving around. Other times she'll be 35 feet out there, fooling around.
Well, here's what I told every coon hunter when they buy a puppy or have a young dog. Two things you don't teach a dog. Nobody teaches a dog to tree coon. They learn that on their own. You just give them the opportunity and take them, and you correct the bad habits. But as far as making them better, it's an inherited trait. They either have it or they don't. That patting a tree and all that stuff and getting them up with other dogs that go crazy on a tree. Once in a while, you get one that turns around and starts clicking better. But hunting and treeing is an inherited trait. They either have it or they don't. That's my opinion. But I ain't right all the time. Just
Well, I'm
99%.
thinking, that's the philosophy I always had down through the years. Of course, on this podcast, we get out there, the listeners, a lot of them are new hunters. A lot of them are younger hunters. We're trying to stress patience, be patient with the dog. Don't rush to judgment like you mentioned earlier, give the dog a chance. Well, but down deep inside, that old school thing is, and I tend to agree with you, Fred, on that. I think they can improve, but I would a lot rather have one that's got the natural hunt ability. We've got a young plot dog, my buddy in North Carolina, and that rascal, he's just got all the desire in the world, and he's the same age as this female that I'm talking about. But yeah, it's hard to put hunt in a dog. You really can't. I mean, you can switch them away from you and make them, get out of your light.
Most of them, when you switch them, they just get scared and
Yeah,
hide in the bushes.
most of the time, or come back and run under the truck or whatever. But there's some dogs are more mature at an earlier age than others, and the dog I'm speaking of is very immature. She still has a lot of play, a lot of puppy in her. She's had to be discouraged from chasing stock and doing those kinds of things, but she's a pretty good citizen and a really nice tree dog and all, but just lacks that hunt and hustle.
Sometimes coon hunters go overboard, figuring I'll hunt the heck out of that dog. I'll make it better. A lot of times you just lay them up for 2 or 3 weeks and take them, and you'll see a different dog. Not all the time, but I've seen it happen. And I asked one kid one night, I said, what'd you do to that dog to make him go like that? He said, I ain't out of it 2 weeks. I'm surprised. I don't know if he just had a extra good night and he decided to do something, but he's been doing it ever since.
Well,
so I got a young dog right now that I just recently bought after that dog. Well, I bought him before that dog died on me, the one I called Red. And listen, I call him. I rarely name a dog, 2 dogs the same name. I had a little female years ago that was outstanding. I called her Tough. And I got her from T.C. Jones down Mississippi. He found her for me. And I won a lot of hunts with her. I sold her to Claude Miller, one of the best red bone men you'll ever meet. Of course, he's deceased now. He owned a supermarket in Pennsylvania, and he called me for a dog one time, and that's how we became friends. And we even bought a dog in partnership together, which didn't work out. The dog was how he won as many hunts as he did. I'm still trying to figure that out. He won Redbone Day in 1966, and we give an outstanding price for him at that time. And to me, he was. I sold dogs for 300. It was better than this dog. And but anyhow, what the heck did I tell you this story about? That I was referring back to something, and I guess I'm getting senile.
You're
But
not. You're just like me, and I'm not going to own up to being senile quite yet. But you get other things on your mind, and well, we were just talking about giving up on a dog, for.
But anyhow, I got this other dog, and his name is Tough, and I hate to, so I just added to it, Tough Enough. Now listen to here's another catch to dogs, and you probably found it out too. You ever buy a dog off of somebody that you know that you'd be willing to buy without trying it? Well, I did that on this dog. And if you don't know the dog, you better know the man. And I knew the man. He came here to buy a dog one time years ago. And he had this dog for sale. He's building a house and wasn't hunting. And he told me about it. I took a chance, and he's from Kentucky, and I met his wife on a Sunday afternoon and bought the dog. Brought him home. He told me he was straight, other than he treated a bear one night, he told me. But he says, I whipped him good for that. Well, that don't bother me, and we do have bear. I treated bear Memorial Day weekend with a red dog I had. But anyhow, um, I started hunting a dog. The dog would go hunting. I love the way you point him. He's going to go the same way you point him, and you're going to. Now I'll find him treed every time somewhere the direction I turned him loose at. He covers a lot of ground. He's fast. He's a quick tree dog. Now he run 3 deer on me. I called the guy. He said, Fred, I ain't never had trouble with him. He says, on deer. I said, one of them, he brought it right. I heard it coming. I'm standing on the road, and the deer stops for a second, goes across the road. The dog comes down. He stops, and he looks at me. I didn't whip him. I didn't call him. I didn't say nothing to him. He just quit that deer right there and walked over to me, and I threw him in a dog box. I figured, well, if you're going to run deer, I'll fix you up real quick. And I took him to a field with a bunch of them. He didn't open on them, but he run them the same way they went. I shocked him anyhow. He come right back. I thought the way he came back, I figured he's been worked somewhere with a shocker. But he's run 3 on me. He hasn't run one in over about 3 weeks now. I love him. The dog is a tough little dog, and I don't guess wrong too many times, but I feel this dog's going to do some winning. I've already been offered some way more than he's probably worth, but I like him. He's only 14 months
great.
old.
That's
15.
great.
15 months old. And, but like I say, dogs are funny. And you know as well as I do, when you tell a guy how good this thing is, it never works out like that. I'll never forget, a guy came here to buy a dog off me one time. I told him about a 4-year-old red male I had that was, I thought, pretty good. I says, I got a young female pup doing real good. I said, I've only had her in the woods maybe 5 times. Do you mind if I take her? This male dog ain't going to teach her nothing, but she might learn something off of him before you end up buying him tonight. He says, no, go ahead, take her. She treed 2 coon on that male dog, and I know to this day that guy believes I lied to him. I said, I never seen her do that before. I said, this is news to me. I said, but I'm glad she's doing it. And she looked good. He didn't want that male dog. We treat coon, but the female did better than him. And she was only 5 months, 5.5 months old at the time. I love to have her today. I, a guy stole her. I can't prove it. I know who did it, but I can't prove it. What he did with it, I don't know. But I'd like to have her and see what she had been like at 2 years old. So, but that's all part of the
dog
game.
thieves. Have you had to encounter that very much over the years?
What's
Dog
that? Dog thieves? Not anymore. Years ago, I had 2 stolen, that female and a young male. And I honestly feel it's the same guy on both. He's dead now, so I don't have to worry about him. My buddy had one stolen, and at the time, the guy was in the same business as I was, dog control. He's dead now too. And the hollow that this boy had his mission from is right in back of this guy's house. And I feel he didn't coon hunt, but I feel he had a friend who was a coon hunter. And I feel he got that dog and give it to his buddy, and they got it out of the country or some darn thing because it never showed up again. It was a good old, as a hell of a squirrel dog and a good coon dog. T.C. Jones had the dog, and I killed 57 squirrel with it, I think, in 4 days down there in Mississippi. And I told T.C., if you ever decide to sell that dog, give me first shot at it. Well, about 6, 7 months later, he called me. He said, if you still want to buy that dog, he said, there's a blue dog down there I want to buy. He said, this was back in the 60s. He says, TC had money, but he didn't have it then. He says, give me $175, you can buy that dog. I bought the dog in a minute. I got it. I just figured if I take him coon hunting, the way he trees squirrel, he's going to tree coon. The first night I took him coon hunting, I treed 4 coon with him. I showed him, you've heard of this guy. He don't coon hunt anymore. Shelton Morris used to have a blue dog called Boomer.
Sure.
Shelton and I were good buddies. He came down here and went hunting with that little dog. He said, I got to have that dog. I sold it to him for 3.5. So, and later on, a buddy of mine that hunted with it down there bought it back off of Shelton. Shelton wasn't hunting at the time. And he went up there, and I told him where I sold the dog, and he bought it back off Shelton. And that's the dog that was stolen, I feel, by the dog catcher.
Well, it happens, and it used to be a fairly regular thing when I was at the registry, especially UKC. I would get calls about cases and would get involved and try to help the people through the network, that we had.
And, well, you just took care of one of them to a guy down here he still goes to night hunts. He paid his fines and everything else. He kept the dog in his house so nobody would see it. And it placed in the world.
Yeah, and we had a situation once where the guy had stolen these dogs and hid them in the attic of the house. Is where he kept them. And eventually, they tracked it out through a cornfield to a highway where somebody picked him up with the dog. The dogs wound up in another state farther out west, and through a microchip, one of them was recovered. So, but I used to get that quite a bit, but not so much anymore,
I haven't heard of anybody having one mission like that. It makes a story more exciting if you say someone stole it. A lot of times, I've had them fall in Wales. I had them fall in a cistern.
Wow.
Gary Davis, when he was living, told me he lost his own dog in a pipe under the ground, and the tracker wasn't working. That was the old beep system. But he finally found the dog and dug to it. I went to a fire department one night and borrowed one of them long poles with a hook on. My dog was in a pipe under the road. I went to see if I'd get that hook in his collar and pull him my way. And here's probably one of the better ones right near home here. I was hunting and there's a reservoir there and there's an overflow pipe. The coon went in the pipe and I had two dogs go in that pipe after it and they went down there at least 12 feet. They were underground where the pipe went back into the ground. And I said, we'll never get them out. And I don't think them dogs can move. I called my kid on the phone, told him the circumstances. I says, bring something out here that we could dig down to the pipe because it's a couple feet underground. The kid bought a sawzall, a spade, shovel, a pick, and so we dug down to the pipe. We're right above the dogs. My kid got a sawzall, cut a square in the pipe. Well, the coon went out of the pipe when he heard that sawzall and went out the other way. The one dog was able to fit through and he went the same way the coon. The other dog couldn't. He was too big and he was stuck there. But my kid, the hole that he cut in that pipe, we got him by the tail and wiggling him out of there and got him finally out of the pipe. We found an old rug and we covered that hole, that square hole, and put dirt all over it. I know if they ever had a blockage in that pipe, they'll wonder how the hell did that rug get on that pipe and that square hole in there. And in fact, that's where I was hunting last night, the same
I'll
wood.
be darned. Well, we had one year at the World Hunt up in Columbia City, Indiana. There we had a dog. A guy named Dave Saunders had a dog that got killed. Didn't get killed. He got hung in a pipe, and we kind of took up a collection to pay the farmer back. I think they had to take out about 3 or 4 rows of corn, get a backhoe back there, and all dig down. It was a drain tile, they call them, out there, and
they have a lot of that in Ohio.
Yeah. Well, these coon dogs for sure get into all kinds of crazy situations.
Hey, I lost a dog here one night. I was hunting by myself, which I do a lot of that. And I had 2 dogs, and one of the tracking collars wasn't working right. So I put a nephew on the better dog. I figured they're going to be together anyhow. And I treed 4 coon that night, 2 with each dog. Never did they tree together. Well, I got the better dog, took him back to the truck. The other dog was on another track yet. He was way back in the woods. And I was contemplating how I could get to him quicker than walking from the truck. But I'm down in the woods yet, and I see a car pull up to where my truck was parked. I'm hunting at a gun club not far from where I live. And I see a bubble on top of the car, so I know it's cops. I go up there. I keep my light out, and I walked up and surprised him. I said, what can I do for you? He says, is this your vehicle? I said, yep. He said, what are you doing here? I said, coon hunting. You remember this club? I says, no, I'm not. I says, but I was coon hunting up on top of the hill. I had a buddy, his farm had joined a gun club, and he didn't know it. But at the time, a guy named Sam Smith was born and raised on that farm, but he lived 40 miles away, and he was a coon hunter, and I sold him several dogs, but he still owned the property, and they leased it off of the gun club. They even asked me to join when I first moved here. I said, no, I'm not interested, because I said, all I do is coon hunt. I don't trap, shoot, or anything else. And so anyhow, a couple of my buddies were members, but I wasn't. So he says, well, I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to see you here anymore. If I do, I'm going to get you for trespassing. I said, hey, buddy, I got a dog lost here, and I'm going to find him. And I'll be back every day till I do find him. And he says, well, you'll be getting a citation if that's the case. Well, I went there. I lost him for 17 days. I put an ad in the paper. I figured somebody's going to call me. I'm the dog warden. Nobody called me. Put an ad in the paper. I talked to every farm around. They all know me. and nobody seen my dog. I went back. I walked the railroad tracks from one town to the other, and I was hunting in between. Thought maybe I'd find him dead on the railroad tracks. Didn't find the dog. Went back here on the 17th day. There was that same cop pulled in the daytime. I was there. That same cop pulled up there, and he right away badmouthed me. He said, "Didn't I tell you that I didn't want to see you here again?" I said, "Hey, buddy, I told you I'll be back every day until I find that dog or what happened to it." He gave me a citation. I seen him at the magistrate. I knew darn well the magistrate's going to stick up for me, but I figured there's legal ways to beat him without pulling anything. I called Sam Smith, who owned that property. I told him the circumstances. I said, "Would you come to a hearing?" I told him the day and the time. He said, "I'll be there." And I put it, I says, "First of all, Your Honor," I says, "I want to point out they have a stipulation that on the township roads in Sewickley Township, you're allowed to park within 35 feet of the road and still be legal." I was parked over that, so I wasn't trespassing. I was on public road where I was, and so there's no violation there. He didn't catch me in the woods, so he doesn't know I was in that woods, although I admit that I was. I says, "Before I go any further, I want to call one of my witnesses right now." And I says, "Let's get Sam Smith up on the stand here." I said, "Sam, how well do you know me?" "Oh, heck, I've known you for 25 years. Did you ever buy dogs off me?" He said, "Bought a bunch of them." I said, "Did you ever give me permission to hunt on the gun club property?" He says, "Yeah, I told the president," and he had the president there. "I told the president I got some friends that might want to hunt here. If they do come down and hunt, just don't bother them. Let them go." And the president of the club spoke up. "Sam, I don't remember that, but if you said you said it, you said it." And so the magistrate threw it out. That trooper was pissed. But I called my lawyer. I said, "Jim, I want to teach this cop a lesson. What can I do?" He says, "Write a nastygram to the supervisor out in Harrisburg and tell him all your circumstances, that this guy gave you trouble from day one, and where other cops have stopped you different times, and says if they see your dog, they'll call you and stuff like that." This guy was belligerent and had the wrong attitude right off the bat. They sent a trooper, head of the Harrisburg unit. I still remember his name, Pudliner, which is an odd name. And I still got his card. This was over 20 years ago. They give that trooper a desk job, and after that, he wasn't allowed to patrol or anything else. And he's never, if he ever gets back to patrolling, he's never allowed to write a citation for trespassing, no matter what the circumstances are. They sent me a copy of everything they sent him. So that worked out pretty good. I put in the letter, and which was the truth. I said, "I've been stopped by police before. I tell them I'm looking for a dog, trying to find." They says, "Well, if we find it, we'll call." I give them my phone number. "We'll call you, or if we could grab it, we'll grab it and bring it back to you." But I said, this guy was just ignorant from day one. So at least I fixed him up. He'd probably still feel PO'd about
Well,
me.
we
So,
appreciate
but
law enforcement because they're very necessary, and a lot of these people really put their lives on the line and all, and can't say enough about the people that are first responders and all of those people that work in public service to help us. But when you get somebody with an attitude, and we had a guy back. Yeah,
that's what it was.
we
That's
had a
what
guy
it was.
back in Michigan. They called him Rambo. I don't know what his name was. I heard,
There's some
yeah,
Rambos
and
here too.
this is hearsay because I did not witness this myself. But he was the kind of guy that went in and checked the same guy in his tree stand every day for several days during deer season. Which that's harassment as far as I'm concerned. And he was the same guy that we were standing along a roadway, gravel road, listening to dogs run in the woods. Had a young fella that happened to be the kid of the landowner with us. And we're standing there, and this unmarked pickup truck comes flying down the gravel road. Brakes slam on. Guy jumps out, no uniform, comes over. What are you guys doing? Said, well, sir, we're coon hunting. And I said, might I ask you what you're doing? And he said, well, I'm a conservation officer. And I said, well, you're out of uniform and your vehicle's not marked. Do you have any identification? And of course, that was, he didn't like that. But I knew, basically who he was. So I said, well, young man here, tell him who you are and what's going on here. And all. Of course, he did. But you just have to, if you're in public service like that,
Some of them rabbit cops go overboard.
Oh yeah,
and we got a couple. They think that they're the head of the state police, the state militia, the FBI, and everything. It goes to their head, that little badge.
Yeah,
and
it happens.
But most of them are good guys. But every once in a while, you get one.
You're always going to get. I mean, if you're a coon hunter and you're out there in the dark of night, you're apt to be checked from time to time. Last year at White River, I think one of the last nights we hunted, we got checked at a common place that we hunt there, and had never seen this guy before. And it turns out that he's actually a federal game warden, and and he was okay. I mean, he was by the book. Everything was,
There's a game warden that lives next door. My kid's got property a couple different places. He's got a little farm down the street from where we used to live. And the game warden lives in the house next to it. And before we became buddy, he cuts my kid's grass for him down there and everything else. He's gung-ho. And like I say, I figure sooner or later someone's going to put him in his place, but it's never happened. He's calmed down, though. The first 2 or 3 years, they try to make an impression, and a lot of times it's wrong impression. But
well, you can tell right away if the guy's knowledgeable. He's a woodsman. He's been out there and knows, or whether he's maybe just out of school and doesn't really understand what you're doing. Let me tell you a real funny little story. Hunting one night in Michigan, one dog, me, at a place where you park on one side of the road, cross the little gravel road and climb a little bank and go through a fence and there's a woodlot that sits up on high ground. I would take my dog, put him under that fence, and, he'd head to the woods. Well, he gets up there and gets treed. Now, deer season is in at this time. So I'm up on a hill, and I'm sure that my light shining in the tree is visible from a long distance. Well, there's a coon. It's season. I shoot the coon. I put the whole coon in my game bag on my truck. On my game bag on my coat, and head back to the truck. As I'm getting ready to go through this fence, I set my gun down. I'm trying to pull this barbed wire up so I can scoot under. Of course, I got permission to be there. All of a sudden, I get lit up. It looks like the landing light on a 747, lights. It said, game warden, he's our conservation officer, he says. And so I stepped down to the road, and he's there. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I got a dog here on the leash. I got a gun in my hand. I got a light on my head. And I didn't say all that, but I'm thinking, what do you think I'm doing? But anyway, I said, I'm coon hunting. And he said, did you kill anything? And I said, yeah. He said, where is it? I said, it's in my coat. We're getting some background. You're getting windy there, it sounds like, Fred.
Yeah, it is. I'm in the process. I got to go pick a guy up at 1:30, and I was going to continue talking to you till I got in the
Okay. So
truck.
you're squared away there now?
Well, in about 10 seconds,
Okay.
I should.
Well, that's all right. That's fine. But anyway, I was going to tell you the punchline to this long, boring story is when I showed him the coon, he looked at it, and the next question he asked me was, "Do you have any other animals in your coat?" I'm determined to say truck instead of coat. I'm thinking I want to say, yeah, there's a giraffe and an elephant and a hippopotamus. But, that bedside manner, I guess, is the.
Put it this way, you know as well as I do, 85% of them guys that become a game warden have never
Yeah.
coon hunted. And it's a new thing for them. You have to explain and everything else. It's different if they have coon hunted with at least somebody through their years, but most of them haven't. I've taken a lot of guys that just became game wardens, took them out, and they want to see what it's all about. I have a picture of one that was really gung-ho, but he knew about coon hunting, and I got a picture of me and him holding coons up together. He showed me a lot of new places to hunt that I didn't know of.
Yeah.
He had a little bit further to drive, but I didn't mind that.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I want to absolutely clarify that, my purpose here in this podcast is not to knock the conservation officers and the people that do a good job in protecting our resource, because there are poachers, there are ne'er-do-wells out there that would, bring hunters in a bad light and all, and we totally support all that. But it is interesting and to know that there's a lot of guys out there doing the job that don't really understand who they're dealing with or what. And I guess that behooves us, to get, when we have a coon club or whatever, invite the local game warden, invite him out to the club meetings, get him out there and tell him what you're doing, show him what you're doing, invite him to go along, him or her, on a hunt with you sometime if they don't understand. Most of the time they think about coon hunters as that reason why they got called in the middle of the night, had to get up out of bed and come out because somebody, was maybe trespassing on a property that they didn't have permission, or the people just simply didn't understand what those lights or what those gunshots meant, in the middle of the night.
We got in our area, one county touches the other, but it's two brothers, and I know them well. When I first moved up this way from the city, they used to go coon out with me all the time. And I started taking them when they were about 14. One of them was maybe 15, the other one 13 or 14. And they don't go coon hunting. One of them even rented off of me for a short period of time. And him and his wife split up, and he rented off of me for a short period of time. They don't coon hunt anymore, but they do a lot of deer hunting in that, and they like that.
Well, what would you say the population of coon hunters is now in your area compared to years ago?
We got quite a few over here, as far as I'm concerned. There's a good number. Our coon club, which is Laurel Islands Coon Hunters, I'm not bragging. I think we got the best club in Pennsylvania. When you go to a meeting in our club, there's at least 40 people most of the time. That's a
Oh yeah.
good crowd for a meeting.
Yep.
For a meeting, and I've counted already 61, and I thought that was fantastic. The other club, well, I don't want to badmouth anybody on air or anything like that, but I know one club, they have only 7 members, uh, and they still put on hunts in that. I know another club that only has 10. I know another club that's supposed to fold up. The only thing that the other members say, they put on turkey shoots, and that keeps their club going money wise. And they said if it wasn't for the turkey shoots, they'd have folded up a long time ago. I truly believe Laurel Highlands is the best club in Pennsylvania, at least that I'm familiar with.
Well, you would know for sure, and those numbers are phenomenal for this day and time. I talked to a sportsman a hunter down in the state of Alabama the other day, and they had a night hunt and only drew 1 dog. And, of course, it's hunting season, I guess, and deer hunting and a lot of other things are taking people, keeping people's occupied at this time of year. But well, it's good to hear that the sport's healthy.
We have a big coon contest tomorrow at that club. Now they'll get a good crowd there tomorrow. Rest assured.
Well, now how do you do it? Do you actually go by the weight and the biggest one wins, or do you?
Most of them go by the weight. I guess you probably heard about that fishing contest that we. We got to check. I told the one guy we're going to count on. There better not be no sinkers.
That's right. Well, some of the clubs, I talked to some people down in, I believe it was North Carolina. The way they do their big coon contest, you bring them back and you weigh the coon, and then your weight goes on a slip, and then at the end of the thing, there's a drawing. And they just draw. Right, they draw the poundage.
Listen, I went to one in Kentucky. I went clear down there to. It cost us $50, but they had 150 people entered, and they give 10 prizes away. Like first prize is $2,000. Second prize is $1,000. Then they start giving tracking outfits, shocking outfits, stuff like that. 10th prize was 500 pound of dog food. So if you did win, at least your $50 back worth of goodies. And what they did, everybody brought a coon in, got a ticket, and with a number on, and then they had a drawing. And if they drawed your number. And so it was a drawing, really. The weight didn't matter whether it was a 2-pound coon or a 20-pound coon. If you didn't bring a coon in, you didn't get a
you're
ticket.
Still getting the experience, seeing the coon coming in, seeing how big a coon did Fred catch. How many,
I didn't win nothing, but
yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, how's the weather over there in Western Pennsylvania for your event?
You ever hear Carl Smith, the Squirrel Dog Man?
Oh yeah,
from
the jukebox
Tennessee?
dogs. I think
they tell me the one he puts on draws 500 dogs, but they give away $5,000.
Yeah,
and I think it's held in December, first week of December. Too many people told me about it, and they all said the same thing, so it's got to be true. It must be a heck of a crowd there and a heck of a hunt to get that
Well, I
many
remember
dogs.
when we started the squirrel hunts with PKC, and we had the first hunt there at Chickasaw State Park there in Tennessee, and of course Carl was involved with his dogs there and all at that time. But well, Fred, it's been great visiting with you. It's as we're.
Hey, you ought to have enough. You ought to have enough news for the next 20 years.
No. We're just getting started. I kind of got a commitment from that hunting buddy of yours, Patty, Does she pronounce that Bizich
Oh,
or Bizich?
She'll fill your ears. She'll entertain
Well,
you.
we're going to get the two of you on there, and I'm going to get the straight on some of these stories here. I'm going to check.
They're not all true.
See if there's any fake news in this deal. Well, listen, Fred, as we're recording this, Thanksgiving's just a few days away, and I want to take the opportunity to wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Same thing to you and your family. Oh, hey, and you tell Patty, say, he was thinking about meaning you, to call another girl that hunts with him, the blonde bomber. See what she said.
I know. I think I already figured out that could get real interesting.
This woman loves to go in the woods, and she especially likes to see deer. And I've seen her in the woods, every night for a week straight, sitting in a field.
You told
us
about that on.
And I said, I thought she was waiting on a boyfriend or something. So she says, what are you going to do with them dogs? I said, I'm going coon hunt. She said, I'd like to try that sometime. I said, you be at my house tomorrow at 7 o'clock. She came up in shorts. I said, you better go home and get long pants on. You ain't going to last long with them shorts on. And the first tree we treed on, there was multiflora rose all around it. You know what that is. Sure. I says, if you had them shorts on, your legs look like them razor blades cut them.
That's for sure. Well,
so I said, you'd be glad you had them
That's right. Well,
on.
if you want to hang with me here just a minute, I need to pay some bills. I want to especially...
There's a buck just right in front of me across the road.
Oh, man, don't hit that thing now.
Deer season ain't into 2 more weeks.
You'll get that hot off the grill venison there if you're not careful. Well, I want to thank my friends at DU Hunting Supply, dusupply.com, for providing the time that I have here to spend with you each week. And if you need anything in the line of hunting gear, apparel, technical support for the electronics that you buy, they will definitely take care of you.
They're good, and they're pretty fast, too. I bought a couple callers off them.
Yeah, they sure are. And looking for the UPS guy or whatever FedEx guy to be at the door today. I ordered some stuff this week. And I will, for the listeners out there that may be interested, and especially if you let your wife listen to this podcast, I'm sure most of the women have never been that bored, but they need to know that I'm running a special for Christmas, for the holidays, of my book, Gone to the Dogs, A Coon Hunter's Journey, and the Gone to the Dogs ball cap. Each of those items are normally $25. The shipping is free, but I'm running a bundle here like the big box stores. You can get them both for a total of $40. I'll ship it to you free, and that's at stevefielderbooks.com. Fred, I really appreciate you spending the time with us today, and we'll hook up here before long. And you take care of yourself, brother.
All right, Steve. Have a nice holiday.
All right, you too.
See you.
Folks, if anybody asks you where I am, for the next 10 days or so, I'm going to be on the White River in the great state of Arkansas at the White River Refuge, a trip I take every year. But if they ask you where I am, just tell them, he's gone to the dogs.